Hello, hello. You're listening to For the Girls, Gays and Days, the podcast where two friends process their emotions concerning pop culture of note to the acronymed community. From film to television, music, and more, we're here to tell you what caught our queer eyes this week. I'm Colt, he, him.
I'm Alex, they, them.
Welcome.
Welcome to it. Cheers.
This week, we're drenched in saccharin gay love in Red, White, and Royal Blue and Heartstopper, solving another murder in Afterparty, and having the loveliest time with Carly Rae Jepsen.
Yeah.
To kick things off, category is film. And I will be talking about Red, White, and Royal Blue. It is the 2023 rom-com adaptation of the novel of the same name, directed by Matthew Lopez. It tells the story of a whirlwind enemies-to-lovers story, the Prince of England, played by Nicholas Skeletzine, and the son of the US president, played by Taylor Zachar Perez. This film is cheese on a heartfelt love story. I was continuously fighting the aw and the eye roll throughout. It definitely has like a TV movie vibe to it, complete with dubious green screening, melodrama, and pratfalls. Also, I'm sure this is a carryover from the book, but there was a lot of like very written by an American vibes as well. Yeah. So there's like a lot of sort of like inconsistencies that I just found hilarious of just like stuff with, and I don't know if it was in the adaptation of it and some of the way they filmed things and obviously some of the dialogue and some of the exchanges, couldn't help but at points be like, wow, that wouldn't happen here. Or like, yeah, okay, Americans' idea of what like London is. But for the most part, I had a really good time with it. I thought it was just campy and over the top and very sweet and very cheesy and just a lovely watch. Have you seen it? What have you heard about it?
I haven't seen it. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I have pretty much seen the entire movie because like all trailers ever, it gives every single point away. And I've seen all the highlights on gay social media. Like, for instance, I didn't know that straight people didn't know that two men can fuck in missionary position.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Of course. We've said much worse.
I didn't know people didn't know that was possible. And maybe that's more about me. Yeah. Well, I think it also was like, there are some lines that are funny, like that whole going to a public school line, whatever he says, like
along the lines of like they're discussing who's topping, who's bottoming, and he's like, "Darling, I went to British boarding school. You're in good hands." Yeah,
I did. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think the kid, the guy who plays the prince, Nicholas, right? Or no?
Yeah,
Nicholas. Yeah, he's also in another gay film coming out later this year. So I've kind of like kept my eye out. He enjoys.
Oh, yeah, he's in Bottoms, isn't he?
He is in Bottoms.
Yeah. So I think he's playing straight in it. Like he's being like the stereotypical like jock type, like the idiot jock. So that'll be interesting. That'll be like a very opposite side of it. There's been a lot said around these central performances. The one tweet that for me stands out was someone saying that Galatzine is giving Call Me By Your Name and Perez is giving Riverdale, which it's accurate. I mean, I do think Galatzine is giving a much more nuanced performance, whereas Perez is kind of playing for the back of the room. But my God, is he pretty to look at?
He's so pretty, and I just feel like
God, he's hot.
Not that pretty. Why? There's nothing that we need to critique about them. They're there for looking at. It's like that Anthony Porowski boy from Queer Eye.
Yeah.
He doesn't cook, but he's there because we like to look at him, and we should, I like pretty things. Male, female, non-binary. I like pretty things. And
on that note, I will say this is a very sexy film. Mm-hmm. Like the makeout scenes are quite steamy. And the one and only sort of penetrative sex scene is very passionate and intimately executed, like in the filming and a lot of very tight close-ups on bits and pieces and touching and caressing and like hands doing things on places, and it's just yeah.
I'd like to give a shout out to my algorithm for making sure that I've seen every single one of those things. Instagram to every trending song on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and even X, formerly known as Twitter. Thank you to the
it's still known as Twitter. We're not doing all that.
We're not doing all that.
We're not indulging in a certain man's midlife crisis, especially one who continually dead names his own children. Like, we're not gonna.
The most divorced man in the history of time.
We're not doing all that. So yeah, on Twitter, there's been a lot of clips.
The whole movie.
Yeah.
A mystery story. Which was never a mystery. It's a rom-com, baby. They be fucking. Like,
I do want to shout out 2 performances in this film other than the leads. The first being Uma Thurman.
Yes, Uma. And you can say Uma because I like her scenes, yeah.
Her Texan accent is wild, Mary. Wild. I don't believe it was good. But did I enjoy it? Yes, yeah, I very much did. I very much enjoyed it. Every time she spoke, I was like, this is great. You're just having such a good time. Like, it's such a delight. Even more of a delight for me, I also want to shout out, to me, the best character in the film, which is Sarah Shahi's Zara.
What? Sarah Shahi? Like
Sarah Shahi. Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
I was watching this with my housemate, and she sort of turned to me when I was like, "Oh, Sarah Shahi so," and she's like, "Oh, have you watched what's that fucking straight show, Sex Life or whatever?"
It's so funny. I don't know.
the viral massive dick scene, but like, yeah, that one. I'm like, oh no, baby, no. We know her from the L Word. That is where Sarah Shahi is from. Is the L Word? Don't come at me with this other nonsense. But she's honestly such a delight in this film. Her character has the best lines and got the biggest laughs out of me. Yeah, every scene she was in, she was firing on another level. So funny. Because I mean, like, she was excellent in the L Word, but I was not aware of how sharp her comedic chops were. So that was a delightful surprise.
The Prince of England inside you or something?
Oh yeah, that was before you put your dick in the Prince of England. Yeah.
That's a good line.
Oh no, the exact line I think was before you put your dick in the heir to the British throne, and then he's like, "I'm the spare," and she's like, "I'm not talking to you, sweetheart." Another great line was like, "You keep this quiet, or I'm gonna like Brexit your head from your body," and it's great. There's a lot of lines like that are just like but in like the best way. Like the thing is of like the one guy says to the other guy is like, I thought my name was a mouthful, or he says his name was a mouthful, and the other guy goes, "Oh, he is." I'm like, that's great. Let's just, we love it. So yeah, so I had a great time with it, and I think, as you say, you watched, I think, the majority of this online. I feel like that's my contribution is going to be to our next piece of media. So we're going to move on to the next category, which is television.
Revision.
Alex, take it away.
Yes, my queer babies. The show is back. Heartstopper season 2. We have Kid Connor and Joe Locke wildly in love. And you already know the story, but let me give you a little recap. So we have a big butch, what everybody assumes incorrectly as heterosexual boy, played by Kid Connor. Yeah, he's actually. And he's incredibly posh, and he loves his mum, and it's just a love.
Yeah.
Kind of yeah. And then we have Joe Locke, who plays the very, very, I would say, nuanced queer performance of a boy who comes out against his will in high school.
Yeah.
And embraces it. And so in the first season, we saw them discovering their feelings for each other and definitely setting the world on fire just by being sweet and sincere.
Yeah.
And we meet their friend group, which, that's really where I want to start the, not critique, but my opinions of season 2. So, they'll give you a full recap before the season starts too. And I just want to give out a shout out to shows that do that because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I watched the whole first season. I processed my emotions. I was there. Do I remember? No.
Especially on the Netflix model, where it's like you binged that all in like 2 days, like a year ago. So that recap is essential.
Exactly. It's based on a graphic novel, in case you were wondering. Some of the scenes are shot for shot. So it's always a good place to go back to. But in season 2, we find the two main characters kind of figuring out how to be out as a couple. For Nick to kind of find, Nick is the rugby playing lad, to kind of find out, oh, what's it like to be out as a rugby playing boy and still have all the same interests, but maybe branching into a new friend group. And I just want to say that overall, I love the season. It was definitely worth a watch. It is saccharin. It is incredibly sweet. But I think overall, honey, we're doing too much. I don't need to know about the secondary characters' life stories. God bless them. Love them all. But I don't. We don't need to unpack everything. We don't need to know every single issue ever faced by queer youth in society, from homelessness to eating issues to anxiety issues. I appreciate the main stellar performances.
I have seen a lot about the way the entire spectrum is presented in one show, in one high school, in a way that, I don't know, maybe it's more realistic now. I think that's also something we have to consider, is that it's been a minute since either of us were in a high school.
Yes, my back hurts thinking about it.
Yeah. So, high school very much may be a very different environment for people, but there is a lot been said sort of around everyone's gay. The teachers are gay, the students are gay.
I believe teachers being gay, honey. But I would get on my knees for both of those men. They are lovely to look at. Boy, it gives. Anyway, sorry.
The intensity of the Mr. Farouk character for sure was working for me.
Oh, you're so cranky. I love it. Just be miserable. No, but okay. So my main takeaway is we don't need to do it all. I appreciate that we want to make everybody feel seen, but I don't, and I've had it. I've had it with trying to give every queer storyline ever in one queer show. Spread
the love.
Yeah, we spent 3 hours in straight TV shows discussing a man. His hobby is bird watching. We spent 3 hours unpacking that one thing. I would love to see a little bit of like, ooh, okay, this is this. Let's like unpack this. Let's give this a minute. Let's let it breathe. Let's discover the nuance in this instead of bing, bang, bong, on to the next thing, bing, bang, bong. Oh, it's also too much. It's not a little bit hectic to watch because you're going through it all.
And this again, I say is a detriment to the binge drop formula, because I think that potentially would be less of an issue if we were watching this show week by week, as opposed to most people watch this in like a day. Like people really sit and binge this and really like soak in it. And yeah.
And I did actually spread it out over a little bit, but it's sort of like they also design it the way that you don't want to spread it out over a little bit. Like,
right. Yeah.
They don't tell you at least on the American Netflix, they don't necessarily tell you where an episode ends and where it begins now. Right. Everything kind of merges, and I think that happened twice.
That's odd.
If it didn't mean to, but
yeah.
It happens in a lot of Netflix shows that I've watched that I don't really, because you kind of lose your mind. It's like, you just get exactly what you're doing. So, okay. So I think my main takeaway from this is please watch the first season so you get all the call outs. Please have a big croissant or a glass of wine or whatever you fancy when you watch it. Please don't take this as Bible as to what the queer experience is. It's not hard to be gay. It's actually quite a lot of fun. But I think, we don't always have to focus on the struggle. But
the thing is, I don't, from what I've heard of the show, because again, well, not again. Some people may not know this, but I've not watched the show. I haven't watched the first season. I haven't watched this season. Well, throughout, like I haven't watched it on Netflix. I've watched many clips of it on TikTok and Twitter, and sort of like fan edit cut downs of it, because I don't know, when that first sort of season of the show came out and the first trailer came out, I was just like, oh, I can't do this. I had flashbacks to me watching Love, Simon, which was a film that everyone told me, oh, it's so lovely. It's such a happy, wonderful, sunshiny film. It's good. Everyone loves it. And then I watched it and it emotionally destroyed me, because it was this thing. And I think a lot of gay men have spoken about this sort of feeling of loss after watching the show and after watching something like Love, Simon, because it's the thing of, it's seeing an experience play out that, though it's beautiful and wonderful that people get that experience and people do have those experiences now, it's not something that we had. It's not something that I had. It's not something that I will ever have in that same way. So those kinds of media are tricky for me, are difficult for me. So I have not watched the show. I've watched clips of the show, and even that has like a weight to it for me. But I will say that the sort of reaction, the response to the show that I've seen is that it is sort of overwhelmingly positive. And again, saccharin, and it doesn't necessarily wallow in suffering. I mean, it's not easy for people. Like that's the whole reason. Like he's struggling with being able to come out as and sort of dealing with, in this season, Nick's dealing with issues with his brother and being able to like come out to his friends and all of that stuff. It's not like an easy experience. And as Trixie Mattel said in the Queens Who Like to Watch, that like being gay is not difficult. It's straight people that make being gay difficult. Like, and that's exemplified on this show from what I've heard and what I've seen.
I think it does. It definitely highlight that, but it also kind of takes it to the nth degree. Like it definitely blows it up. And I appreciate why it does. And it is a story that, I've experienced, we've all experienced bullying, and sometimes the bullying comes from inside the house. We've all been there. But,
very much.
And anxiety is definitely something I suffer with. So I get that. But I just feel same. Maybe we were trying to pull too many emotions out of our audience. And I just kind of didn't always enjoy it. Like, and I know it's sort of maybe something that I do that not everybody does, but sometimes when scenes get too awkward, I actually can't watch, and I have to like block weather, sing myself a Spice Girls song to get through it. And I think that a lot of people don't do that. I've discovered I just got a lot of things from people sharing like things that aren't every day that they do too. Like, I mean,
see, I don't do all of that, but I will skip. My finger is very quick on that. Skip 10 seconds to like get through some of those scenes.
I don't do it. I make my wife watch the scene and then tell me what happened.
I'm like, I can pick up on context cues once we're through this.
This all like she said the video was, and it's definitely a weird thing I do. So okay. But okay. Overall, I would say it's a great season, great performances. Obviously.
Yeah, I've loved the clips that I've seen. Yeah.
Maybe we could do less.
Yeah.
Watch it to support queer media, queer creators, queer IP. Always good to get that. I hope people are getting money from it. I doubt they are. I hope they do one day.
Yeah.
My main takeaway:
pay the writers and actors what they deserve. We have to say it.
You have to say it.
It's ridiculous that they're not just doing that. It's so easy.
$200 for the whole world watching Heartstopper season 2.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. And we're back. And the category remains television because Alex has more TV to tell us about. Bounty of... What is the phrase?
Bounty of riches?
Bounty of riches. There we go. See, they're the smart one, I'm just going to look pretty.
Oh, you are so pretty is what I love about you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to welcome you to season 2 of Alex is Watching This Shit Afterparty on Apple TV. Now, Apple TV sucks at promoting their shows.
It's bad. It's bad out here. Like it's a desolate wasteland. Unlike their like library of content, which is actually rich and delightful. Yeah.
Which you won't know about until you finish an Apple TV show, and then they're like, here are these other shows you can watch, and you're like, when did they come out?
What?
Why didn't you tell me?
How were there 3 seasons? When I have never heard of this.
Okay, so
But Afterparty, do tell.
welcome to Afterparty Season 2. Season 1 has absolutely nothing to do with Season 2, except that there is a couple that decided to get together in Season 1 at the end. So we join them in Season 2. Zoe Chow, I think is the correct pronunciation, but I could be wrong, is the lead in the show. And imagine, if you will, a film geek being allowed to make TV into a murder mystery. So we have the classic murder mystery setup. We've had a party, we've had an event. And exactly after the event, we have a dead body. And thusly, the rest of the show is figuring out how the dead body arose.
Or fell, as the case may be.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so this has turned into a drunk history episode because my tipsy ass can't remember my notes about the actors. But, okay, so we have all the film geek nuances. So every episode actually refers to a different genre of things you might know. So we have...
Which is the best part about the show. Like, it truly is delightful.
It's really good. In this season, we have the Wes Anderson kind of episode, which
has been my favorite so far.
You managed to watch it.
Oh yeah. I've caught up with what's out so far. The whole season isn't out at the moment.
It's not out. But might see by the time this get released, because I think
there's 10 episodes in a season, and I think we've had 8.
Oh, counting's important. I thought we had 9. Anyway, okay. So every season is actually a different genre, and in each of those,
is a different genre.
Yeah, every episode, is a different genre, and thusly you also unpack the story in those. Except for the last episode that I've watched, was an episode that is in the genre of 90s thriller soft porn.
Took a wild turn to the detective story rather than the suspect stories.
Exactly. So if you're thinking, what was that movie with Glenn Close? Was it 9 Weeks where she boils the bunny?
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction, a bunny boiler. We have that kind of energy where we have somebody unpacking a case, but also really needing to fuck. So then that was one episode. Another episode was like Pride and Prejudice. And I think it's really interesting in both in structure and sort of in the way that it decides to be self-referential and have a sense about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. It really drives home the concept of the unreliable narrator. Because every episode is from the perspective of a different suspect being interviewed. So that's why it's like the different genres, like this is what it's like inside this person's head, and this is how they viewed events. And then you see the same sort of events when it starts intersecting with other suspects. You start seeing the same events, but from different perspectives. It's really interesting.
Did it give you this sort of moment in your life, especially with this season? I think it was really interesting to see what genre do you think you see life in? Because I'm thinking I might actually be seeing it in a rom-com meets a Wes Anderson film that it might not always be.
Yeah, I would say sort of like, again, Wes Anderson, but meets like a thriller.
We're different. Oh God. Funny though, because I was just like, I sat there and maybe the first 2 episodes didn't really jive with me. I think
I will say the problem that I had with that first episode in particular is that I find the sort of lead male character to be the worst character. I find him insufferable. And his sort of like, oh, I'm so goofy. Oh no, everything is going wrong. Oh, but I'm confident. And it's, I just find him insufferable. So the moment we get away from his perspective, I'm happy. Same thing happened with season 1. Same thing with this season. Yeah.
I found it to be very true about him, and I don't regret saying it. My favorite episodes are the ones where he's just say, and tell me what you think happened. Like, I want him to have 5 lines and then we move past him. I don't fancy him.
Get out of here.
Get out. The women outshine the men in this season.
Oh, yeah. And last season, honestly. Alana Glazer, like, come on.
She's still fucking funny. I don't even watch her TikTok now. And it's a mess, and I'm so grateful she does it. Okay, but back to the show. Overall, I would say you should watch the show if you're a fan of any genre of film ever. If you're a film wanker, it's definitely up your street. But if you just kind of want to have a show that doesn't expect you to do too much thinking, it spoon feeds you slightly.
Yeah.
And
it feels like the sort of, what are those all sorts, what are they called? Not the licorice all sorts. The ones that come out at Christmas. What are those?
Oh, Quality Street.
Quality Street. It's a quality street of television because you get a different thing every episode. You get a different flavor. You get a different thing, but it's all got like the murder mystery running through. So we love a murder mystery on this podcast. Like it's collectively our favorite thing. Mostly Alex, collectively our favorite thing. But yeah, I think it's such a great show.
It's such a great show, and Apple TV gives you a free week. So you can probably watch both seasons. It's
wait 2 weeks for the last 2 episodes to come out, and then do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Don't be silly. Don't be a hooker.
Yeah.
Or be a hooker.
We support.
I think definitely after the last episode, get that free trial and watch it. I'm not going to advocate for Tim Cook to get more money. But definitely give it a watch. It's not going to stress your brain. It's going to give you a good outcome.
Yeah.
It has gay people in it. It has straight people.
Oh, it does. And that's also why I love the Wes Anderson episode, because I don't want to give spoilers, but that's the gayest episode. And I loved it. But yeah, fabulous show. Give it a watch. We're moving on to our next category, which is music. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Carly Rae Jepsen's The Loveliest Time.
Oh, yeah.
7th studio album from the Canadian singer. And Jepsen has said that this is a companion album to last year's The Loneliest Time. And it sort of features B-side songs she wrote during the pandemic. And I found this really great quote from her that I want to sort of start this discussion off with from an article she did, an interview she did for the Rolling Stone. She says, I didn't want it to just be as simple as a dark and a light. We're not as simple as that as humans. It's more about stepping into the experience of being alive and coming out of that state of hibernation and then loneliness. I want it to feel like growth and sound like celebration. Those are the main concepts for me. A lot of the songs were written from a place where I still hadn't met anybody I was that excited about. It was this longing for that. It's been a weird thing of life imitating art because I feel like I've written all these experiences that now in real life I'm getting to have. And it's odd to have written it first and then kind of happen afterwards. And I thought that's just such a lovely description of this very effervescent kind of album.
It is. I think the greatest thing that I discovered about this album. So if you don't know, if you're new to the Carly Rae Jepsen cinematic
universe, yeah.
Okay. So what Carly does, because she's a genius, is that she'll release a record like Emotions, and then immediately after, or a year after, some months, usually a tighter window, she'll release Emotions side B. And she'll put it in the title, Emotions B-sides or whatever. And she always does that, and they always go together. For this record, everyone thought it would be The Loneliest Time B-side.
B-side.
However, it's not. It's more, I understand what she was saying when she said it's kind of more a standalone project. Like, it needs its own air, because I actually think it takes everything to a much higher level. Like, my mate and I were talking about this, and I feel like it's such a step up. And for her to say it's a B-side would be dunking on all the other pop bitches, because I think it's actually one of the best records put out this year and for the last couple of years. So I think it just has so much to it to unpack. And every time I listen to it, I have a new favorite record. Collage is my favorite record at the minute.
And I was going to say, what are your three? Because the gays I follow anywhere on socials are proclaiming Psychedelic Switch as the song of the album. It's not my favorite.
Yeah. Specific kind of Pacific kind of person who likes that one.
Yeah. So Collage is in my three.
Yeah.
So what would your other two be? Like if you're like, these are the three faves.
Well, it's Collage because it feels sort of like pop meets Tame Impala. And then it's definitely Shy Boy because it's like so cute. And then I believe, if I'm not incorrect, it is So Right.
That is also in my three, baby.
Oh, really?
We're the same person. We're the same person. Except for my third would be Weekend Love, which technically is not like on the album. It's like a streaming bonus track, I found out. And it's not like on the physical release. And I'm like, that's the best song on the album for me. That is my absolute favorite. But yeah. I also love So Right. Like I just want to, and I'm not, I'm not a dancey person, but I listen to that song and I just want to sway. I just want to have like a long chain of pearls on that I can just shake.
Well, one of those, bobs. Like I want to do a bobbery, like.
The visual of you and just like an aggressively hardline bob, just being like, shaking it.
You know what it is? It's that Netflix movie that came out, which he had the bob within Rosamund Pike had that bob within an inch of his eye. That one, the kind of maniacal bob. I want that one. They're very good.
It's great. It is just sunshiny, happy, very, very effervescent. I think that's the word that I think.
Full of longing. I do find it to be sort of the fantasy of love and sort of the fantasy of singing.
Yeah. And I love the sort of stories she has of it being like, I didn't have this when I was writing it, but now I do. And I'm just like, that is for the Zodiac bitches. I'm just like, that is manifestation. She just manifested her best life through this album, and I'm here for it.
She is a professional life giver. She is mother. She is father. She has it. Nobody says father. I wish they would.
Well, they say daddy, baby. They say daddy.
Well, but daddy's not nearly as good as father. But at all, father. I'm just come up. Rub. But
unhinged. We're getting unhinged on the pod, and I enjoy it. I'm here for it. I support it.
I do. I think I messaged you, I think the first time I heard it, and I was just like, the world needs to put this record on. I think there was an article that came out yesterday or the day before that says, what happens when a pop artist isn't popular? It was about Carly Rae Jepsen.
And homosexuals were like, excuse you. You can see yourself out.
I thought everybody loved it, but I guess, one interesting thought I want to leave everybody with is that if Carly released what I think is one of the strongest songs, Collage, or any one of the other ones that everyone has talked about other than Shy Boy, if you released the hottest cuts of this record, like Psychedelic Switch, as singles, if you gave it a push, like a Dua Lipa push, she could be that bitch. She chooses not to be that bitch.
She doesn't really do that. Yeah, you're right.
Like, my friend and I were saying this, Catherine and I were saying this, like, she might be doing it on purpose. She might have experienced being a pop star and desires.
Yeah.
That's just a thought, we can chew on. But that's
the conspiracy theorist in us. But anyway, do absolutely give the album a listen. Do stream those shows that we talked about and that film we talked about, because they're all on streaming. And once again, pay your writers and actors for the love of God. Just fucking do it.
Wouldn't have a show.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you want to give us a follow, we are at girlsgaysdays_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And video versions of this podcast are available on YouTube.
Thank you, my beautiful eyelash trend. And join us again next week for another sip of queer culture. Yes, santé.
Cheers.
Hulk, I just want to check with you. If a bumper sticker says Hulk, like if you like cheese, are you not meant to Hulk if you like cheese? Was that
I
not
think
some-
it's a rhetorical honk. It's like a rhetorical question.
everybody know that except me? I thought you were meant to Hulk. If somebody says Hulk if you like pizza, I'm going to Hulk because I like pizza. I thought that was just an everyday thing that we all do.
I think there's a danger of people forgetting that they have that bumper sign, and then they're just like, why is this bitch honking at me? You know? I personally never touched my horn. I mean, I haven't driven in many years, but
You touch your horn off and don't lie to me.
filthy.